silent screams, where the calm of your surroundings might not be as safe as it seems. Tonight, we unravel tales that slip between the cracks of reason, leading us deep into the chilling unknown. In this series, we will explore the haunting wilderness, where survival becomes a terrifying game against unseen forces. Are you ready to journey into the eerie unknown? It all started with a group of friends who decided to venture into the remote woods for a weekend hunting trip. They called themselves seasoned outdoorsmen, confident and prepared for anything the forest could throw at them. The wilderness, however, held secrets that none of them were ready to face. The forest they chose was infamous among locals, a place spoken of in hushed tones. Tales of hunters who went missing, strange lights, and ghostly sightings peppered its history, but the group dismissed these as nothing more than exaggerated folklore. Their first night was uneventful, filled with laughter around a campfire and the occasional rustling in the distance that they brushed off as deer or raccoons. As the night deepened, a thick fog rolled in, blanketing the area with an unnatural stillness. The air turned icy, their breath visible in the pale moonlight. The laughter faded as the forest seemed to hold its breath. A faint sound echoed in the distance, a low, guttural growl that sent chills up their spines. Probably just a bear, one of them muttered, trying to sound calm. But the look in his eyes betrayed him. They all felt it, that gut-wrenching sensation that something was watching them from the shadows. They tightened their circle around the fire, suddenly hyper-aware of every crackle of twigs and every rustle of leaves. As the hours dragged on, exhaustion began to take over, and one by one, they retreated to their tents. The fire, now reduced to embers, cast eerie shadows that danced like specters on the towering trees. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the distant howling of wolves. And then it came. A scream, shrill, piercing, and unmistakably human, ripped through the night. It was close, too close. They scrambled out of their tents, flashlights cutting through the fog, revealing nothing but empty woods. The scream came again, this time from the opposite direction. It was as if the forest itself was playing tricks on them. "Who's out there?" one of them shouted, his voice trembling. There was no answer, just the echo of his own voice. Then came the laughter, a soft, childlike giggle that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The fog grew thicker, the cold more biting, and the sensation of being watched became unbearable. Panic set in as they realized they were no longer alone. One of them pointed towards the edge of the clearing. There, barely visible in the dim light, stood a figure. It was tall and unnaturally thin, its head tilted at an unnatural angle, as if studying them. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the dying embers of the fire. "Run!" someone shouted, and chaos erupted. They bolted into the woods, adrenaline drowning out all reason. The forest seemed to close in around them, the trees twisting into grotesque shapes, their branches clawing at the fleeing men. The fog swallowed everything, muffling their frantic cries and the sound of their footfalls. As they ran, one of them tripped and fell, his flashlight tumbling into the underbrush. He scrambled to his feet, but before he could move, he felt it, a cold, bony hand gripping his ankle. He screamed, kicking wildly, and the grip loosened. He didn't look back, couldn't look back. He just ran, his heart pounding in his chest like a war drum. They regrouped at a small clearing, their breaths ragged and their faces pale. The figure was gone, but the fear remained, seeping into their bones like the chill in the air. They decided to stay together, their flashlights creating a small, trembling pool of light in the oppressive darkness. Then came the whispers, soft at first, like the rustling of leaves, but soon growing louder and more distinct. Voices, dozens of them, speaking in a language none of them recognized. The whispers seemed to come from the trees, from the ground, from the very air around them. One of them, a man named Kyle, began to shake uncontrollably. "We need to leave," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. But the path they came from was gone, swallowed by the fog. The forest seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction, twisting and turning into an impossible maze. The whispers grew louder, and with them came faint figures moving just at the edge of their vision. They looked human, but distorted, their movements jerky and unnatural. Panic turned to despair as they realized there was no way out. Suddenly, a loud crack split the air, and one of the trees fell, narrowly missing the group. The ground beneath them seemed to pulse, as if the forest itself was alive and angry. The whispers,